Something shifted in me not long after I started this channel, and for a while I wasn't ever able to figure out what it actually was. It wasn't confidence exactly or some new sense of direction, it was a little bit different. It was more like I quietly crossed from one side of thinking to another, like a mindset shift. I went from someone who just watched and consumed things to someone that actually made things and produce things for people. Now, I'm not saying I'm some big producer or I have some crazy editing skills, just still gave me a sense of a different mindset, a different perspective. And I know it sounds small, just because I started making videos, my mindset has shifted in a way, but it's a lot more dramatic, I feel, than it seems. It's still kind of hard to explain, but I feel like my thinking and the way I react to things is a lot more different now. Before I started making these videos, I was a full-time consumer, watching videos, maybe reading things, and taking in other people's ideas, but not really doing anything with them, not really applying what I learned in any way. And I didn't think much of it. I feel like no one really does. You consume things and that's just life. You go to work, you come back, you watch things, you have fun, and that's it. I feel like other than maybe people that journal, you don't really hold on to the things you've learned. Now again, like I said, everyone does it, so I didn't think much of it. I didn't think it was really a big problem to be full-time consumer and not produce anything. But what I didn't realize is how passive that was making me, how all I did was go to school or go to work and come home and that's it. Didn't really do anything with my life. I feel like I didn't really add anything to this world. Now I know working a job is adding to the world, but I didn't feel a sense of satisfaction from it. And for the longest time, I felt unfulfilled, and I felt like I just needed to wait for something to happen, if that makes sense. But nothing really happened, and I never had that feeling of satisfaction from the work I did. And the longer I waited, the easier it was to convince myself that I just needed to learn to be satisfied with what I was doing, and maybe it was a lack of gratitude, but I don't think it was. You see, I feel like a lot of people have these certain parts of their life where they're not fully fulfilled and they leave it like that. I was a victim of that. I left it because I felt like I just wasn't grateful enough for the things I had, and that's why I wasn't happy with it. And maybe that if I just waited a little bit more, maybe a little bit more clarity would come, or maybe I would grow to love what I did. Looking back, I think I was just really comfortable not having to worry about something else in my life and just kind of consuming forever. Having the world ask nothing of me other than me go to work and me being able to have the rest of the day to myself. Starting to make content flipped something inside me and changed me in a way that I didn't really expect. I started noticing how other content creators structured their thoughts and were able to deliver what they were trying to say in such a beautiful way where so many people were able to understand them. I started to be analytical over every single thing I consumed and learning from how people delivered their things so I could make my things a little bit better. I'd be watching a video and I'd be watching a video and instead of just absorbing it, I would try to learn from it and also try to learn how to apply that within the same week of watching it. And at the same time, I'd question why what they did worked for them and how I could use it to help work for me. Overall, I feel like this constructive mindset has built me in such a rapid way that I didn't expect or didn't even realize was possible. I feel like I'm learning and growing at twice the rate. I started to realize that I had opinions I didn't know I had. It's like the act of making videos woke up a part of me that was just sitting there quietly untapped. And now that it's awoken, I feel like I have so many more thoughts in my head, but also I feel like I'm able to communicate those thoughts way more effectively. Not just in a content perspective, but also in my day-to-day conversations. Now, I'm a business major, so I don't know how it works in other industries or other careers, but I'd imagine it's somewhat similar. But as a business major, I've learned that communication is one of the most important skills to have. So I'm glad I started making content, not just to help me think better, but also to help me communicate better. When you start making content, I also realized that there's something that happens to your relationship with time. You start respecting it more. Rather than just mindlessly consuming for 2-3 hours on end, you start valuing that time way more, and maybe what would have been a 3-hour TikTok session turns into a 15-minute one. So you have the rest of the day to work on your content. And the best part, it's not even like I'm forcing myself to stop or I feel like a pressure to stop watching content and start consuming. I just feel more encouraged just after watching a couple videos. I feel like I have to make my own. I've just noticed a lot more awareness of my time, and as a result, time doesn't fly as much as it used to. Now, that awareness when I was making these videos wasn't something I was looking for. It just showed up, and I'm glad it did, because now I'm able to use that in doing other things, not just in terms of creating content, but also I feel like time really has slowed down, and I'm able to do a lot more with my day than just kind of go to work, come home, maybe eat, and just watch. Now I'm finding a lot more time to do things like go to the gym, go for a walk, and make videos all in the same day. Now I'm talking about all this change and how drastic it's been, but I know the reality of it is that I don't have a lot of views, and I'm not trying to pretend that I do. But regardless of views, I've stopped being someone that looks at YouTube as just a place of entertainment and also a place of creative freedom. Now, this channel specifically for me is my journal, because I don't like writing in a journal. I end up giving up on it within 2 weeks. But this is a lot more easier, and I like the fact that there's a possibility of helping someone. But I also have a gaming channel where I teach people how to play at high ranks at games like Valorant. YouTube is way more than just a place of consumption for me now, and I value it way more too. It's a place where honestly, I feel like it's created a hobby for me. So my perspective on YouTube has completely changed. I'm not just a consumer of YouTube, I'm a producer. Now, I'm not saying one is better than the other, but I am saying one is easier than the other. One is where you're just receiving, and the other requires you to have a perspective, a point of view, an opinion, and it requires you to share it. Having to form an opinion regularly on your own life and sharing what you're learning from it is a lot harder than I expected. Not just in terms of wording your thoughts in a way that people can understand, but also it forces you to stop passively moving through your life. When you know you're gonna have to sit down by the end of the week and make a video on something and share something you've learned with the world, it forces you to be more aware. It forces you to take in a lot more of your surroundings than when you don't have to do that and you just kind of cruise through. I started taking my experiences way more seriously, and as a result, it has taught me so much because I had somewhere to put the lessons I've learned. This channel. Things that would have usually just passed through me or in through one ear, out through the other before are now highlights of my week. Conversations are sticking with me, things that I'm remembering for months on end. And I'm having things that I'm reading that I can't stop thinking about. Now that I have a place to put these things, not only does it take the pressure off of trying to remember these things, but it's also nice to have such an analytical perspective on so many parts of my life. And now that I have this new perspective, I feel like I'm understanding a lot of these conversations and perspectives a lot more because I have to. I think that's the thing I'd want someone to hear if they've been sitting on an idea. Make content. Not because it's going to build an audience and you're going to be some rich, famous person, but first of all, you genuinely don't know what can come from it. And second, I promise it'll force you to learn a lot more than you have to. So you're going to get even better at the skill you're trying to learn. Now, whether it's communication or pottery or art, anything you want to do, make content on it. The shift that occurs internally is priceless. It changes how you see yourself. It changes how you engage with these hobbies that you have. They say the best way to learn something is by teaching it to someone else. This platform gives you that opportunity. You stop just watching people do things and you start teaching other people on how to do things. And like I said, that slows down your days. It feels like you have more time, and it feels like, for me at least, it's felt like a warm feeling knowing that you're helping someone else out there. I'm not saying you have to make a YouTube channel specifically, but I am saying try your best to make some type of content, or maybe not even content, just try to be a producer of some sort. It's so beneficial, it's hard to explain. It doesn't have to be videos either. It can be a blog, it can be a journal for yourself, or maybe you share with someone. Something you build from scratch with your hands. That's what I want you to do. It almost doesn't even matter what it is. Because the point isn't being a YouTuber, the point isn't being a blogger. The point is shifting from being a consumer exclusively to a producer. Even in a small way, I can guarantee it will change so many parts of your life. And that feeling of having a stake in something or having a responsibility to do something gives you a lot more drive than you may think as well. You stop being so passive in things and start having an active mindset and an active role in a lot of parts of your life. I'm still pretty early on this and I'm still figuring things out, but I am saying that this has changed my life in the few short months that I've been doing it. I'm not trying to convince you or force you to do something that you don't want to, but all I'm gonna say is that the version of me before making content versus the version of me now is very different. And I love the version of me now compared to that. I don't think the version of me before was really living in his life. I don't think he was really learning as much as he could have. I didn't feel like someone that was giving value to this world, but I do now. Even with 0 views. Now for a channel with 0 views, that might sound super dramatic, but I can't help it because it's true. So again, if you're only going to take one thing from this video, please just take this. Try your best to be a producer in any aspect. It doesn't have to be videos. And I promise you'll learn so much.